irons-nous?
Nous irons voir la tour Eiffel, si ça vous plaît.
Oh, ça me plaira beaucoup. Est-ce que c'est loin?
Non, pas très loin. Nous irons par le métro. C'est plus rapide.
Qu'est-ce que c'est que le métro?
C'est un système de train sous terre.
Oh, comme la Subway à New York?
Oui. C'est facile, économique et très rapide pour voyager. Et vous ne pouvez pas vous perdre.
Alors le métro, c'est très bien pour moi. J'ai toujours des difficultés à trouver mon chemin.
Quelle circulation! Il y a beaucoup de bureaux qui ouvrent à cette heure-ci. C'est l'heure d'arrivée des employés.
J'ai remarqué que la circulation à Paris est toujours intense.
La circulation à Paris est intense comme dans toutes les très grandes villes.
Je suis contente de vous avoir comme guide. Vous connaissez bien la circulation. Moi, j'ai peur quand il n'y a pas de lumière rouge.
Ici, il y en a. Nous les appelons des feux rouges. En France aussi, les piétons doivent attendre pour traverser que le feu soit rouge.
Voilà, allons-y. Traversons.
Voilà l'entrée du métro.
Où ça?
Là où il y a des escaliers. Descendons. Il faut prendre nos billets au guichet. 2 billets de 2e classe, s'il vous plaît.
Oh, permettez-moi de les payer. C'est combien?
Attendez.
Merci, madame. Je croyais avoir de la monnaie. Ah oui, voilà. Merci, madame. Qu'est-ce que c'est que ça?
C'est une machine pour indiquer votre chemin.
Mais comment?
Nous voulons aller à Passy. C'est la station la plus proche. Chaque bouton porte un nom. Il faut presser le bouton qui porte le nom Passy. Regardez le plan de Paris. Voyez comme les petites lumières indiquent votre chemin.
C'est ingénieux. Pourquoi les lumières sont-elles de 2 couleurs?
C'est pour indiquer les correspondances. Mais dépêchons-nous, nous n'avons pas trop de temps. J'entends le métro qui arrive.
Les portes se ferment, mais pourquoi?
Les portes se ferment quand le train entre dans la station. C'est pour empêcher les accidents. Voilà le métro qui part. Nous allons pouvoir entrer sur le quai. Il y aura un autre train dans 2 ou 3 minutes.
Quelle station splendide.
Oui, c'est une des plus modernes. Regardez bien les murs. On utilise pour la publicité des reproductions de tableaux célèbres.
Le métro qui vient d'arriver a des wagons de 2 couleurs.
Oui, il y a un wagon de 1re classe et des wagons de 2e classe. Quand notre train arrivera, il faudra monter dans un wagon de 2e classe.
Pourquoi?
J'ai des billets de 2e classe, voyez.
Mais quel est le wagon de 2e classe?
Les wagons verts ou gris sont des wagons de 2e classe. Ils portent un numéro 2. Les billets de 1re classe sont plus chers. Je voyage toujours en 2e.
Ah, voici notre métro qui arrive. Voici notre wagon.
Vite, montons.
Il y a beaucoup de place ici.
Oui, nous avons de la chance. Prenons les places là-bas.
Très bien. Je préfère toujours m'asseoir dans le sens de la marche. Mais pourquoi dites-vous que nous avons de la chance?
À cette heure-ci, il y a souvent beaucoup de monde. Et il faut rester debout.
Since they were speaking in French, I wasn't quite sure when the conversation was over. Welcome, everybody. I'm Skip Elsheimer. This is the AV Geeks Lunchtime streaming show. We started off with a French foreign language film, Le Métro. I have a couple in that series, which are all pretty great. I only took 2 years of French in high school, and I don't remember anything. So there you go. Anyways, this is the AV Geeks Lunchtime streaming show, and we watch 16mm films, and so, yeah. And I'm here. We didn't get any storm at all. The outlaw weatherman, who I have often wear on my shirt, Greg Fischel, said, I don't see what the big deal is about the storms in Raleigh. I think Orange County and Chatham County, which are near Wake County, where we are, got some storms, but we didn't get any. So, knock on wood, I'm not disappointed. But let's watch another film about photographic slides made by Indiana University.
Photographic slides are useful instructional materials. In black and white or color, they are easy to make and easy to use in the classroom. Slides can be made of student activities, microscopic objects, pictorial material found in magazines or books, scenic or historic spots, and local points of interest. Let's see how a teacher made this slide of a spillway to help her visualize a unit on the community's water supply. For outdoor colored pictures, a daylight type film is used. With each box, there is a guide that shows the correct exposure settings for almost any conditions. The shutter speed and lens opening are read directly from the guide. Distance is the only other setting to be made. The teacher could estimate the distance or use a tape measure, but her camera has a rangefinder to make focusing easier. When adjusting the rangefinder control, this is what she sees. One of the two images moves. When it coincides with the other, the lens is properly focused. Then she is ready to make an exposure. The local photo shop will handle processing of this film. Later on in the classroom, one of the children projects the slides as the teacher discusses them with the class. Pictures like this can be taken in normal room light by using fast films. Here, a social studies teacher is making a picture in a printing plant. He is using a type of film that gives a finished positive transparency in about 3 minutes. After an exposure is made, the tab is pulled and the film is allowed to develop in the camera. In about 2 minutes, he can remove the transparency. It is complete except for hardening the emulsion, which is accomplished by dipping the transparency in a chemical hardening solution. This film has 2 advantages. Pictures can be taken in normal room light, and processing is rapid. In less than 3 minutes, a transparency can be made that is ready to mount and show in the classroom. A plastic mount like this is practical because it is unbreakable, and the special shape eliminates the possibility of projecting the picture upside down. Other pictures in black and white or color can be taken indoors by using flash bulbs or electronic flash for lighting. Color pictures of class activities make an effective report to the parents. For this, you can use a 35mm camera with an inexpensive flash attachment. A plastic cover over the reflector serves as a protection in case the bulb should break. To find the camera settings, select the guide number for the film and bulb you are using. At 1/50th of a second, the guide number is 110. To find the proper lens setting, divide the guide number by the distance in feet. For a distance of 10 feet, the result would be 11. So the lens opening is set on 11. Then line up the subject in the viewfinder and snap the picture. Another slide for your collection. A pictorial record of class activities is a good way to show pupils' accomplishments. With flash photography, you can also make records of bulletin boards or of class projects. A very important source of material for slides is the never-ending supply of maps, pictures, and graphs in books and magazines. These pictorial materials, colorful, readily available, and interesting, can inexpensively be converted into useful slides for teaching. Let's see how a copy is made of this magazine illustration. You will need to add an inexpensive close-up attachment to your camera for this type of copy work. Make the camera settings according to the directions that come with the copying equipment. A supplementary lens over the regular lens acts as a simple magnifying glass and permits you to make a close-up of the subject. You can make copies quickly and conveniently with this equipment. However, the size of the pictorial material you can copy will be limited. With a rigid copy stand and a more versatile camera, you can make adjustments for copying originals of any size. 2 reflector flood lamps can be used for illumination. Be sure to use an indoor-type color film. Careful focusing assures sharp pictures. An exposure meter, used as recommended for copying, will help you get consistently good exposures. You can also use a photo data guide to give you the proper exposure settings. Similar guides will help you determine the correct lens setting when making extreme close-ups. By using your equipment properly and by following instructions carefully, you can make good slides. If you need a transparency in a hurry, copies can be made in a matter of minutes by using the process that makes a positive transparency in the camera. Daylight is an excellent light source for copying. If you are making colored copies, be sure to use daylight type film. A tripod is a steady support for the camera while you make the exposure. To protect slides that are used frequently, bind them between two pieces of glass. A slide binding tape holds the glass, picture, and mask together. You can also use various types of commercial mounts that are available from your photo dealer. Often you can add interest to a slide presentation by making a tape-recorded narration to accompany the showing. Good photographic techniques, proper exposure, sharp focus, and interesting camera angles will make your slides more effective. Notice particularly in these pictures of a leather craft project the use of close-ups to emphasize details. A good presentation of your slides is important. Be sure the room is adequately darkened, the projector properly focused, and the slides changed smoothly. There are many kinds of good projectors you could use. Once you start a collection of slides for instructional purposes, you will discover new and varied uses for your camera. Whether you use your camera to make pictures through a microscope, or take a picture of a flower, or make copies outdoors, you will enjoy making and using slides. Every subject matter area offers a wide range of possibilities, and you will find many uses for them in your classroom work.
So I remember being in the School of Design at NC State and having to shoot slides for a presentation. They had a copy stand, and you would check out a camera from the cage, and you'd get some film, some slide film, set up the copy stand, set your focus, take a picture, and it was all from like books and magazines, and take a picture, and then there was I think we did a thing where we put together a portfolio of slides of our work. So we would take our work and set it in the copy stand. So this all predates digital by a long shot, and this is all what leads to PowerPoint, of course. And so this is out of visual materials that counts for what I have, and I do have some slide projectors and some slides. Not as much as I do a 16 millimeter film, of course. All right, let's learn about how to cook meat.
Eve, wake up, Eve.
What is it?
I'm hungry.
Oh, here, have an apple.
I'm hungrier than that.
Okay, here, try this.
What is it?
Well, it sure didn't grow on a tree.
What do I do with it?
Cook it.
Oh, what's cook?
Well, first you have to build a fire.
Oh. Eve, what's fire? Well, it might not have occurred exactly like that, but it's a pretty sure bet that once man
And woman.
discovered fire, one of the first culinary achievements to follow was meat cookery.
However, meat cooking does not necessarily make the meat tender, juicy, and easy to chew. The quality of meat and the method of cooking are contributing factors.
Now, especially in beef, which we'll be using for our demonstrations, the tenderness of the cut is determined by the part of the animal from which the meat is taken. The legs and shoulders receive the most exercise, so these cuts will be less tender. This is because exercise of muscle fiber reduces fat and produces connective tissue, a tough elastic substance. So, the softening of the connective tissue is the major goal when cooking these cuts. Adding liquid, covering, and cooking at low temperatures accomplishes this and is called moist heat cooking.
The parts from the upper ribs and backbone are least exercised and have greater fat cover, as well as interior fat, called marbling. This melts during cooking and keeps the meat moist and juicy. Therefore, these cuts may be cooked uncovered by exposure to a dry heat source, called dry heat cooking. There are many techniques of dry heat cookery. Roasting is one. It is used for large cuts of tender meat, such as this rib roast. Preparation is simple. Season before or after roasting. Apply by rubbing onto the surface. Be aware that seasonings, including salt, penetrate less than 1/2 inch and mostly end up in the drippings. Place the meat, fat side up, on a rack in a shallow pan. The rack supports the roast out of melted fat and increases circulation of hot air around the meat. Since the degree of doneness is related to the internal temperature, a meat thermometer is essential. Insert it into the roast so that the tip is in the center of the thickest muscle and does not touch fat or bone, either of which give a false reading. A meat thermometer gives much more reliable results than cookbook guides of minutes per pound. Place in a preheated oven. 300 to 325 degrees is recommended. When roasting, you are working with the prize cuts, which are also going to be the most expensive. Allow sufficient time to achieve good results. A low temperature causes less weight loss and produces meat that is juicier, more uniformly done, more tender, and with better flavor than higher temperatures. Observe that the hot air has begun to melt the fat. This keeps the meat moist. Spooning drippings over the roast has little advantage and wastes energy just opening the oven door. Meat proteins begin to coagulate at 140 degrees internally. This is the minimum temperature to which beef should be cooked. However, meat continues to cook after it is removed from the oven. Retained heat will raise the temperature 5 to 10 degrees, so always remove a roast before the desired temperature is reached.
Rare beef, because it shrinks less, will yield more servings per pound. However, personal preference may favor a medium or well-done roast. A standing time of 15 to 20 minutes allows the meat juices to set and the roast becomes easier to carve. Carve it by slicing across the muscle grain, which allows for easier chewing. In this case, a horizontal carving position is more stable for a rib roast, using the tip of the knife to release the meat along the rib bone for each slice. The same cuts of beef which are suitable for dry heat roasting may be cut into steaks and oven broiled or grilled over charcoal. Both broiling and grilling are techniques of cooking by direct exposure to heat. Steaks for this method should be at least 3/4 to 2 inches thick. We're going to broil a sirloin steak. Slash the fat to prevent curling. Place the meat on the rack of a broiler pan. The holes allow fat to drain away from the meat. The distance from the heat source depends upon the thickness of the steak. Thinner steaks should be placed closer to the heat, and thicker ones farther to prevent an overdone exterior. Close the oven door on gas ovens, but leave it ajar on electric ones to prevent steam from accumulating. Broil until the top of the meat is browned and cooked about halfway through. Salt tends to delay browning and causes unintentional overcooking, so season each side after it is cooked. Then turn, using tongs. Forks pierce the meat, allowing juices to be lost. Of course, browning is a guide to doneness, but a quick check with a meat thermometer inserted horizontally will be even more reliable. Always remove the pan to a solid surface to prevent spills and burns. Color may be checked with a slash halfway through the meat. A steak this size will require 30 to 40 minutes to broil. Use the same temperature guide as for roasts. Thick steaks are carved across the width of the steak after the bone is removed.
The same tender cuts, which are broiled, should be pan-broiled if less than 1 inch thick. Often the bone is removed to allow them to conform to the pan better. These are rib steaks. The best utensil to use is a heavy metal skillet or griddle, which holds and distributes the heat evenly. Use no added liquid or grease and do not cover. Cook slowly over moderate heat. Excessive splattering indicates the temperature is too high. Little change in appearance means it's too low. Turn meat occasionally to ensure even cooking. When curling occurs, slash the fat. Drain away excess fat if it accumulates. This requires care not to get burned or to spill grease, which could ignite. Test doneness by making a slash to check the color of the cooked meat. Season as desired after cooking. For comparable pieces of meat, pan broiling takes about half the time of broiling.
Frying is the correct terminology for meat cooked with added fat, but since no liquid is added, it is considered a dry heat technique. When only a small amount of fat is used, the method is called pan frying or sautéing. This technique is used for thin, tender cuts or cuts which have been tenderized. We're using tenderized round steak. Cut into serving-sized pieces, removing connective tissue and fat. For pan frying, the meat is often coated with seasoned crumbs, called breading. Dip the meat in a mixture of milk and beaten egg, and then in breadcrumbs. The coating becomes crisp in the heated oil, but keeps the thin piece of meat moist and free from excessive shrinkage. Do not cover the pan during browning, or the resulting steam will take away the crispness. Turn occasionally to ensure thorough cooking. Serve hot.
When food is totally immersed in fat, it is called deep fat frying. If an electric deep fat fryer is not available, use a deep pan with a wire basket to fit and enough oil to cover the meat. A deep fat thermometer is also essential. Animal fats, such as lard and butter, smoke at lower temperatures than do vegetable oils. This is why vegetable oils are preferable for deep fat frying. All fats and oils decompose and produce an unpleasant aroma and flavor if heated beyond their smoking points. Preheat the oil to the correct temperature, 300 to 360 degrees, depending on the type of meat. The thermometer should not touch the bottom of the pan, which would be hotter than the oil. We're using tender beef and liver cut into cubes. Fry only enough meat to cover the bottom of the basket. Overloading lowers the temperature of the oil and the food becomes grease-soaked. Lower the basket into the hot oil gradually to prevent splattering. Fry only until the meat is brown. Remove a portion to test for doneness. Beef cubes can be rare to well done. Liver should be browned throughout, but still juicy. When done, lift the basket and drain well over the hot oil. Then transfer to paper towels to absorb the excess grease.
It's obvious that over half of a beef carcass is made up of the more exercised muscles. Each muscle which moves is wrapped in connective tissue, these creamy white thread-like strands. And the brisket and flank contain these long, coarse muscle fibers. There are two ways to overcome these problems in less tender cuts: using moist heat cooking methods, which add moisture during the cooking process, or tenderizing the cuts before cooking. Tenderizing renders some cuts acceptable for dry heat cooking. The most common tenderizing method is grinding, or pounding with a mallet, both of which break up connective tissue and soften coarse lean meat fiber. Grocery stores have machines which do this for you. Or you can marinate meat to flavor and tenderize it. A marinade is a solution containing acid ingredients, such as vinegar, tomato juice, or wine, in which meat is soaked for a length of time. Or use commercially available powdered tenderizers, which contain an enzyme derived from papaya fruit. Sprinkle on moistened meat, pierce, and let stand.
Now, whether or not you tenderize, there are two kinds of moist heat cookery for less tender cuts: cooking in a small amount of liquid and cooking in a large amount of liquid. When using only a small amount of added liquid and thin cuts, the process is called braising and is done in a covered skillet on the range top. The same technique is called pot roasting when using large cuts of meat and is done in a 4-quart deep pan called the Dutch oven. We'll demonstrate this technique with the chuck arm pot roast. First, brown the meat in a small amount of heated fat. Browning develops flavor and eye appeal. Do not rush this browning. Use a medium temperature. A slow brown stays on the meat better than a quick brown. Remove meat from the pan and pour off the excess grease. Now, the drippings and coagulated meat juices should be softened with about a cup of liquid, compatible to the meat: water, wine, or meat stock. Scrape up the drippings over high heat with a wooden spoon. This process is called deglazing a pan. Season the meat and return it to the cooking utensil. Cover with a tight lid and cook at a low temperature until tender. This may be simmered on top of the range or in a 325-degree oven. Add vegetables at least 1/2 hour before the roast is done. Minutes per pound guides are especially useful in moist heat cooking. When done, meat and vegetables should be fork tender.
A method appropriate for stews, soups, and corned beef brisket is cooking in a large amount of liquid. This means that the meat is entirely covered by liquid. Shank cut with beans, corned beef brisket with cabbage, and stew are prepared with this method. We're demonstrating beef stew. Browning is optional depending upon the meat used. If the beef cubes are coated with seasoned flour, called dredging, they must be browned before cooking. Then add just enough liquid to cover the meat. The large amount of liquid in this cooking method dilutes the flavor of the meat, so this is a good opportunity to create exciting flavor interest with spices and herbs. Simmer until done 2.5 to 3 hours. And add vegetables at least 1/2 hour before the meat is tender. That just about covers dry and moist heat cooking methods. Of course, any of these techniques can be applied to meats other than beef.
However, meat cookery is not complete without considering gravy and sauce making. Meats are a good source of B vitamins, which are water soluble. Don't let these vitamins, which are dissolved in cooking liquids, go to waste. Use them in gravies and sauces. If you want to thicken the liquid from stew, remove the meat and vegetables. Make a smooth paste of equal parts cool water and cornstarch. Add to the meat liquid gradually and stir to blend well. Cook gently until thick. Then add the meat and vegetables and serve.
Now to prepare gravy for a roast. While the meat is standing, drain the drippings, including the coagulated meat juices. Always use the drippings from meat, but remove excess fat. Fat rises to the top, so a skimmer aids in separating it. Measure equal parts fat and flour. Heat till bubbly and cook 2 or 3 minutes until the raw flour taste is gone. Then add the drippings and extra liquid and cook until the mixture thickens. Be sure to taste and season accordingly. The ratio of flour to liquid for a gravy is 2 tablespoons flour to 1.5 cups liquid. Well, then that does cover it.
Very funny. Well, that's meat cookery. It's a little more complicated now than when the first man
And woman.
cooked wild meat over the first fire.
But it's well worth the effort. Here, try some of this too. Adam never had it so good.
Oh? I don't know about that.
They're trying so hard. Trying so hard. The best joke that came up was I can't remember her name. Linda on Facebook during the Adam and Eve sequence said Adam said to Eve, "Got any spare ribs?" That's a Bible school joke if I've ever heard one. Vacation Bible school joke. Anyways, yeah, so that was shown in home ec, and maybe shown in other situations, like for people that were in learning how to cook for restaurants in community colleges or trade schools. Now let's look at lopside land. big fan of the series. Encyclopedia Britannica. Played with some recreational drugs, I think, at some point. Hired some younger filmmakers for those late 60s series, Magic Moments, the Let's Go, Let's Play, etc., and Lopside Land. Brilliant film. Had a good soundtrack, too. I think you could show that to adults, and they'd equally appreciate it, like I just did. All right, time to watch something that I put up on the telecine that I have not seen. This one looks like it is from a transactional analysis group. It's called The Failing Marriage. So it's going to be a lot of looking at body cues and how people treat each other. And it's from the 70s. So here we go, The Failing Marriage.
I hope you're sorry you brought it up, and I told you before, that's it, it's done, and there's no more discussion. That's it. Settled.
Well, I have no clue. I don't think it's done. I don't think it's settled, and I want to discuss this. I want to discuss it sanely for a change, without you flying off the handle all the time.
I have the balls to stay sane with the sister you got. Sanely. No sanely. It's over. She's not coming back. I don't care what happens to her. All
That's
right?
obvious. That is
Well, I hope
very
it's obvious.
obvious.
Because it hasn't been obvious up until now.
What would it be like if it was someone
Honey,
in
you
your
were my
family?
brother. You wouldn't be hanging around
Then we
here
have
this
a
long.
big change, or we have
No
to
big
take care of
change.
little Frankie. We have to make sure everything's all right with him. We have to give him all the money he wants. We have to take him out to school. We have to do this. We have to do that. He's got to have all the stereo equipment he wants. He's got to have whatever his little heart desires.
Yeah. Well, I'm working to pay
He
for it. And if I
just
say he gets it, he gets it, and
second
she
naked.
doesn't.
Oh, that's really fine.
Yeah.
He gets it and she doesn't. What logic? I can't believe it. I really can't
Don't
believe
you
your logic.
talk logic to me, honey.
I'll talk whatever I please. I don't think you would understand it anyway. You are so beyond that.
Yeah?
You are really beyond anything. You're beyond discussing anything sanely with you. And
We had the discussion. The discussion's over. And she does
It's
not
over
come
because
back
you say
into
it's so.
this
Yes,
house.
she does. If
No.
I want my sister here, I will have her here, and you will not tell me
Well, then,
no.
honey, you and your sister are both going to stay in a hotel.
My dear husband,
Yeah?
you just try throwing me out of this house. You just try it. I
Yeah?
dare you, Chuck.
Yeah?
I dare you.
Well, I'm telling you, she doesn't come back.
Well, I
You want to spend your time with your sister? I don't care. But you don't
I
spend
think
it
you
here.
should try to be a little more civil to her. You
Don't
know,
talk civil,
you
don't
try
talk
anything.
understand.
You never try anything.
Yeah?
You don't try to be civil with anybody. You never come home and talk to me.
Who's
You
been
don't even
keeping
talk to
this
your
lush
sister.
freeloader?
Lush.
For all this
My
lush,
sister
honey.
is not
Lush.
lush.
And I don't buy another drop of her
She
booze.
is not a lush.
Oh, yeah?
She's as lushy as you
Check
are.
under her
I don't
mattress,
call
honey.
2 martinis, 2 and 3 martinis.
Two
before
martinis.
dinner.
Oh,
Before
yeah. Yeah,
dinner.
yeah.
I would say that is verging on alcoholism. If
I don't
anybody's
care
an
what you say. I
If
don't buy
anybody's an
her
alkie,
booze.
it's you.
Yeah? Why?
I really
Because
don't
it's your
know.
goddamn
Oh,
sister,
yeah,
that's
blame
why.
it. Blame everything on her. You just love
Well,
her.
everything's her goddamn fault anyway.
Oh, it is not. That is ridiculous.
Oh, she stays out.
She does not. She stays here.
Honey, if you bring her here tomorrow,
Stick your finger at me.
Honey, if you
Don't
bring
you
her
stick
here
your finger
tomorrow...
at me. Ow!
Shut up!
Stop!
I said
Bitch!
shut up! This is
I
my...
damn you! Charlie!
Listen to me. I told you! Stop!
Ow!
You want me to smash you?
Stop
To
it!
smash you, I'm telling you.
This is incredible.
It's
I
incredible.
don't believe you are
Because
doing
I
this.
will
Let go of
physically
my
throw
wrist.
you out
You're
of the
hurting
house.
me.
I'm not
You
gonna
are
let you
hurting
do
me,
it. I
Charlie.
don't
You're
give a
hurting
shit if
me.
I'm
You're hurting me.
I'm gonna hurt you
You're
more.
hurting me. Let me alone.
The bullshit!
Stop it.
Yeah,
Damn
so
it.
you throw another goddamn thing or I'll throw you out of this goddamn house. You
I'd like
and
to
your
see you
sister.
cry. I've had enough.
I am not gonna work my ass off for your sister.
Stop. Damn.
like a million other couples this year, Charlie and Caroline's marriage will end in divorce. Just about half, only 55 out of 100 marriages taking place today will survive. Why do marriages fail? There are no pat answers. But let's look at a marriage that is failing, this one, and see if we can get a picture of the forces that can tear couples apart. Caroline and Charlie are caught in a power struggle. The original issue has been forgotten because each is more interested in winning the struggle than in solving the problem. The purpose of a power struggle is to stay in control. And in order to get control, each resorts to attack and counterattack, the usual maneuvers of a power struggle. Anger and hostility have taken the place of affection and caring. But anger is a natural response to frustration, and frustration is a normal part of life. Anger can be constructive when it is channeled into problem solving. But what is happening here with Caroline and Charlie is that the anger is destroying the marriage. Let's look at some of the scene again and see how their anger becomes destructive. This is Caroline's opening. It produces resentment and more anger.
Well, I have news for you. I don't think it's done. I don't think it's settled, and I want to discuss this. I want to discuss it sanely for a change without you flying off the handle all the time.
Instead of trying to solve the problem, she is more interested in hurting, in getting even. She may feel better for a while because she's getting things off her chest. But her words will have a scarring effect that will be felt for a long time.
My sister is not a lush!
And I don't buy another drop of her
She
food.
is not a lush!
Oh, yeah?
She's as lushy as you
Check
are.
under her
I
mattress,
don't call
honey.
2 martinis, 2 and 3 martinis.
Two
before
martinis.
dinner.
Oh,
Before
yeah,
dinner.
yeah.
I would say that is verging on alcoholism.
This is character assassination.
I don't buy her
How
food.
he is you.
Charlie's drinking has nothing to do with the decision about Nikki. Bringing it up now makes getting back to the original issue even harder. More and more irrelevant issues are being dragged in. They are arguing about so many different things now the system is overloaded. I call this kitchen sinking because everything gets thrown into the argument but the kitchen sink.
What would it be like if it was someone
Honey,
in
you
your
were my
family?
brother. He wouldn't be hanging around
then we'd
here
have
this
a
long.
big change, or we'd have
No
to
big
take care of little
change.
Frankie. We have to make sure everything's all right with him.
This remark is sarcasm. It produces resentment and more anger.
Do that. He's got to have all the stereo equipment he wants. He's got to have whatever his little heart desires.
Charlie and Caroline are caught up in a power struggle. The original issue is forgotten because each is more interested in winning than in solving the problem. They use tactics like character assassination, humiliation, sarcasm, generalizing the criticism, and so on. The end result is anger. And when anger is used in an attacking way, such as here, it becomes enormously destructive. Why can't Charlie and Caroline resolve their problems constructively, like so many others? The answer to that question lies in the fact that there is a hidden defect in how these two people communicate. The power struggle is only a symptom, not the cause. The real cause for this failing marriage is a subtle defect in communication. To find this basic flaw, let's go back to the very beginning of the argument, when Caroline first brings up the issue about Nikki. Let's see how Charlie and Caroline communicate.
Charlie, do you think you could pick Nikki up tomorrow? I have to take the kids to the dentist and I can't go, and she's due to come out.
Pick her. No. She's due to come out tomorrow?
Mm-hmm. And I'd rather, that one of us got her than she would have to take a cab. I mean, that's an expense, too.
And take her away.
Bring her home.
We got to talk about this.
Well, I thought we agreed that it was all right.
We agreed that it was all right for a while. Okay? She's been here. Things are getting bad in this house. And I'm not bringing her back. Okay?
Now, Charlie, what am I supposed to do? I can't just, they can't release her. I just can't have her go on the street. Now, I've got to bring her just for a while. Now, we said we'd give it a chance, and I would say 2 weeks is a chance.
It was just for a while, the last time and the time before that. No.
Well, what would you like me to do? Would you like to put her up at a hotel?
That's an idea.
You'd want her to... I don't really think she can take that, Charlie. Now, look, you know what the doctor said.
You don't think she can take that? I'm going to tell you something. I know that I can take her coming back here. Okay?
Thank you for letting me finish.
Well, you finish now.
Thank you. May I just point one little thing out to you?
You point one little thing out.
Each time she has been here. Okay, just shut up a minute. Just let me finish something once.
Wait! Don't tell me to shut up.
Would you please be quiet then?
Don't tell me to shut up. All right? You want to discuss this? We're going to discuss it. But don't you tell me to shut up.
Shut up.
You pick your sister up and you take her wherever you want, but she's not coming back in this house. So there. Now shut up. Okay? Huh. Now are you ready to talk decent? Without this shut up?
You have outshouted me every time I've tried to bring this up. You've not let me finish one
Honey,
thought.
I had her here twice. Okay? Are we supposed to take care of this girl the rest of her life? When is she going to start taking care of herself?
The problem about Nikki is only a trigger to bring out the conflicts that lie beneath the surface. How can we find out what the true issues are? Their body language, how they use objects, what they say and do, all these can be a clue to what is really happening. For instance, let's look at the couple just before the issue of Nikki is brought up. Charlie's not really reading the magazine, he's using it as a barrier. There are other issues here besides Nikki, but no one is talking about them. Let's go a little further. It looks as though Caroline feels dominated by Charlie.
You have outshouted me every time I've tried to bring this up. You've not let me finish one thought.
But at the same time Caroline feels dominated by Charlie, Charlie also feels dominated.
Don't tell me to shut up. All right? You want to discuss this? We're going to discuss it. But don't you tell me to shut up.
Shut up.
The struggle to avoid being dominated has a lot to do with Charlie's barriers. They seem to be a way of saying, you can't make me. And there's another important issue to Charlie, losing control. Here, in a very revealing moment, Charlie shows just how much losing control frightens him.
I had her here twice.
He has only mispronounced his words, a simple thing. But his overreaction tells us that under that facade, he has a great fear of losing control.
I had her here twice.
Dominating, submitting, losing control. These are some of the things that Charlie and Caroline can't talk about directly. And the list gets longer. One more most important issue becomes obvious at the very beginning of the argument. Let's look at the replay.
Charlie, do you think you could pick Nikki up tomorrow? I have to take the kids to the dentist and I can't go, and she's due to come out.
Caroline has waited until the last moment to bring up the issue about Nikki. And look how casually she brings it up. Then when Charlie refuses to go along, Caroline gets very upset and protests.
We got to talk about this.
Well, I thought we agreed that it was all right.
We agreed that it was all right for a while. Okay? She's been here. Things are getting bad in this house. And I'm not bringing her back. Okay?
Now, Charlie, what am I supposed to do? I can't...
This is a pattern. We'll see more of it soon. Caroline understates her request.
Charlie, do you think you could pick Nikki up tomorrow?
Charlie refuses.
She's been here. Things are getting bad in this house. And I'm not bringing her back.
Caroline protests.
Now, Charlie, what am I supposed to do?
Look at the body language at the instant of protest. Charlie's hands show his ever-present barriers. Caroline's hand-on-chest martyr gesture shows her protest. It's that martyr way she protests. Let's go a little further.
It was just for a while. The last time and the time before that.
There was...
No.
Well, what would you like me to do? Would you like to put her up at a hotel?
That's an idea.
You'd want her to... I don't really think she can take that, Charlie.
Here is almost that same request, refusal, protest pattern again. Only this time it has an unexpected twist. Let's watch it again. Caroline offers a solution.
Well, what would you like me to do? Would you like to put her up at a hotel?
Charlie accepts the solution.
That's an idea.
Caroline rejects her own solution.
I don't really think she can take that, Charlie.
Caroline offered a suggestion she expected Charlie to refuse. If he refused, she would protest, and the request, refusal, protest pattern would have been repeated. What happened was that Charlie didn't refuse. And because the pattern is more important than the issue, Caroline was forced to reject her own suggestion. She was outmaneuvered. She couldn't protest her own solution. Is Caroline setting herself up to be refused? If so, why? At this point, we can only guess. But that request, refusal, protest pattern does give us a clue. It could be that Caroline is using a ploy. The purpose of the ploy is to place blame and avoid guilt. The name of the ploy is Look How Hard I Tried. Here's how it operates. Caroline secretly doesn't want Nikki to move in. But since Nikki's her sister, she can't say no without feeling guilty. But if Charlie says no, then he takes the blame. Caroline protests. And when she does, she feels self-righteous. And that's where the martyr part comes in, because when she finishes protesting, she can say to herself, look how hard I tried. There is the defect. Manipulation has taken the place of true communication. Instead of being able to talk freely about how they feel, they avoid and manipulate. Charlie with his barriers, Caroline with her ploys. Each throws his conflict on the other, while at the same time each trying to avoid getting caught in the other's conflict. What is the outcome of a power struggle and a communication defect? A relationship in which Caroline and Charlie find themselves living in two different worlds.
I'm tired of yelling.
Well, I'm tired of yelling too, and I'm tired of your sister.
Like
now she's not coming back.
When
Okay?
you get in one of these...
I'm in a state, you're right.
talking to you.
Well, there's not going to be any
Really
discussing that because it's settled.
We haven't discussed anything at all.
You're right.
We haven't discussed a thing. From the very beginning, it's been nope, 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 all the way down the line. Don't talk to me. Don't bug me about that. You
It has
bug me.
not
Your
been from the
sister bugs
beginning.
me.
We've kept her. I have picked her up before.
No,
and I
Charlie,
brought her
I'm
back
talking
here
about right now. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about this
baggage.
moment. I'm talking about right now.
Yeah, what about right now?
I was just...
You know
why
why?
should I repeat myself?
Why should you repeat yourself? I'm fed up to here.
Why?
I'm fed up with
I
Nikki.
just like
I'm fed up
talking
with the
to a wall.
shenanigans. I want her out. Don't you
No
want
wonder I talk to
How about a
people.
little
No
understanding
wonder.
from you? All right?
How dare you say that to me?
How dare I say that to you?
How dare you? Understanding. You don't know the meaning of the word.
Instead of loving and caring for each other, they find themselves very separate and very much alone. And what happens when Charlie openly asks Caroline for understanding? In an extraordinary, revealing moment, Caroline shows where she stands when it comes to Charlie's need for love and caring.
How about a little
No
understanding
wonder.
from you? All right?
How dare you say that to me?
How dare I say that to you?
How dare you? Understanding. You don't know the meaning of the word.
Once they have reached that point, agreement is impossible, and the battle becomes inevitable. A successful marriage takes awareness, sensitivity, and a lot of courage. Really important issues can't be avoided for long because, like old ghosts, if they're not faced, they keep popping up when they're least expected, getting in the way of things that really need to be dealt with.
It's rough when mom and dad get a divorce. It's interesting. Somebody pointed out, I think Thomas pointed out on Facebook, saying, like, why are you guys listening to The Realtor? Wonderful film. And there's a bunch in that series. I don't think I have others, but I've heard about them, and I've seen some at film conferences I've attended where it was these kind of marriage counseling types of things. There's a 70s tweak to it. But it's entertaining because it's not real. And they're just letting each other have it. I mean, if I was there in person, it was real people, it'd be incredibly awkward, but here you go. Thanks everybody for tuning in today. Let's see. Happy birthday, new radios, old radios, 90. I'm assuming you were born in 1990 because that's what some people do. So, happy 31st birthday. Is that right? You can buy us coffee if you like what you saw today. Even if you didn't like it and it kind of piqued your interest a little bit, that's a way to reward us or punish us. You can hit like, subscribe, the thumbs up. Somehow that adds up for something important. I don't know what or why, but maybe it will guarantee my entry into heaven or hell. And you can go to avgeeks.com and see other stuff that we have online and buy DVDs, etc. Everybody have a good weekend. We dodged a bullet with the weather. It's actually snowing about an hour from here. Weather, man, North Carolina, it's crazy. But yeah, we'll be back on Monday. Everybody have a good weekend and relax and, take care of yourself as always. Please rewind and love each other. And I don't know if you guys remember, but this is actually a peace sign, not a Mercedes logo, but a peace sign that some bored high school or middle school student did when they were working in the library. So think about that today. Otherwise, everybody take care, and we'll see you soon. Bye.